gates, fences, barricades, limited street access, closed lots, and then some. By now, you've heard the stories from the folk who've lived this nightmare. Business owners have lost customers. A charter school lost students. A veterinarian lost clients. Churches have lost members. And still, Procrastination Crenshaw sits unfinished. And when I say sits unfinished, I mean sits unfinished. Nobody was seduced by the Jedi mind trick they tried to play when they ran that headline on the front page of a local black newspaper about the project restarting in weeks. I mean, come see for yourself. The only trucks on Crenshaw are deconstruction trucks. It took a minute, but to her credit, LA Mayor Karen Bass showed up and she's leaning in on getting our parking back. But think about this for just a second. LA is not Chocolate City, and yet we are blessed to have a black mayor and a black city council president. But where is the black city council president? Where is Marquise Harris Dawson? This is his project in his district, but he has been strangely quiet. Did you notice in the recent Los Angeles Times story about Procrastination Crenshaw that neither Marquise Harris Dawson nor Destination Crenshaw had a word to say on the record? The silence was deafening. When people ask me why the silence, all I can say is, good question. As a reminder, the Crenshaw Corridor community sent him a letter, and it laid out real demands. A public timeline, relief for the businesses that have suffered, and an audit. At the moment, the last one matters most, the audit. Here's the thing, the foundation money, the private donations, that's their business. But this project is also funded by city money, state money, and federal money. I refer you back to the front page story in that black newspaper where they all talked about this. Go read it again. In any event, it's your money. And when public money goes into a $100 million project that still sits unfinished, the public has a right to see where every dollar went. Contracts, budgets, payments, schedules. That's not too much to ask. Again, it's your money. Our letter gave Mr. Harris Dawson a deadline, Friday, September 4th, to respond. The clock is ticking, Mr. President. 12 hours to mind the public's business. And this is one of them. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. As always, we welcome your feedback. How do you want it?
I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Well, I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Said I need a dollar, 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 that's what I need. And if I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me? Bad times are coming and I reap what I done sowed. Hey, hey. Well, let me tell you something, all that glitters ain't gold. Hey, hey. It's been a long old troublesome road, and I'm looking for somebody come and help me carry this load. I need a dollar, dollar, dollar.
You know what that means. It's time for Freedmen Friday. We do this every week, focus on reparations. We cannot manifest reparations, the check, spiritual repair, mental health, the land back, none of it if we don't pay attention, right? We got to know what's going on. We got to be up on movements and counter movements, and got to celebrate our victories. So we do that every Friday around here. We're 2 years in with Freedmen Friday, and all comers are welcome. So if there's someone you'd like to see, if you have an idea for a guest or a particular segment on Freedmen Friday, please reach out to me, depremaradio@gmail.com, depremaradio@gmail.com. You could also tap in on any of the socials at KBLA 1580. We're everywhere. Tap in with me on socials at Deprema Radio. I most frequently read my DMs on Instagram and TikTok and sometimes Twitter. So joining me now, a fresh voice in this conversation for us on Freedmen Friday. He's from New Orleans. He's a founding member of an organization called Foundation for Arts Mentoring, Leadership, and Innovation, or FAMLI Incorporated. It's a nonprofit. And their mission is to provide educationally and culturally stimulating programs, projects, and services for youth. He's also a longtime activist. And like we were talking about off the air, he's got so many things going on that if I read them all, we would have no show. Torre Brannon Reese, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good, good. It's great to see you.
It's always good to see you, too.
No, I do. I think of you in terms of music because you are also a vocalist and a big supporter of the arts. As you can see, if you're on our YouTube stream, by the giant saxophone that's hanging around his neck.
Straight from New Orleans.
And I think of you as a youth organizer and mentor. Yeah. I don't necessarily, and of course, a proponent of Malcolm X.
Yes.
That helped get those Malcolm X signs all up and down the Crenshaw / Malcolm X corridor.
Malcolm X corridor.
But I haven't thought of you much in terms of the activism around reparations.
Oh, yes. I've always been there. Maybe not in the streets with my fist in the air, making a lot of noise, but behind the scenes, just supporting it, writing, advocating for it in my own unique fashion. And kind of followed in your footsteps for the last 6 years since COVID and started my own little Zoom podcast type of show called A Question of Culture. And so we've been talking about the various issues over the years, and reparations is always at the top of the list.
Yeah. Well, I have yet to check out your podcast, but I certainly will. There's so many podcasts now, but for you, it's a natural evolution because yes. Before their podcasts, you were writing articles, standing on stages and talking. Why reparations?
It's a critically important issue. It's something that we deserve, something that we are owed, something that's a righteous move if this country wants to be righteous, which it seems not to want to be. And I think that at this point in time, particularly under this current regime, that we need not forget about it and assume that, okay, because of what's going on now in Washington, there's no desire for it or no need for it. We should push even harder for it right now. And I believe that. But I have some other things in my mind about reparations that I think are also important.
Yeah, we'll get to those. I mean, we've got the hour. I think not only has Washington said it's not important, they've actually said that they're in opposition to it, not as seen in the vote in the UN, where Israel, Argentina, and the U.S. were the only ones that voted against that resolution, showing that the enslavement of us was the gravest crime against humanity, and calling for reparations. But also, the president himself has made an explicit statement against reparations.
Right, which is baffling. It should be baffling to us that any black person would be supporting him or be in his corner. It's baffling. And that stood out like a sore thumb that the U.S. and Israel both voted against that.
In Argentina. Which also has a very neo-authoritarian fascist government at the moment.
Now, that kind of went over my head for a while, Argentina. But, yeah.
Well, I remember the multi-billion-dollar bailout of their own MAGA-style president. So reparations, Reconstruction, and our enduring fight for liberation from 1619 to now, that was your latest theme.
Right.
And so when you say reparations and you say 1619 to now, there was no United States in 1619.
Not legally, but there were black people here. Africans were here, and they were living here, and they were working here. And some of them, I mentioned Antonio the Negro, whose name was actually Anthony Johnson, who came here as an indentured servant and became eventually, through work and buying his freedom, became a wealthy landowner, and this was in the 1600s. And so our history here actually began before that. Of course, we know we were here, thousands of years ago. But in terms of the American experience, I say it happened in 1619.
When you say thousands of years ago, what are you referencing?
Well, Africans left the continent, many, many years ago, and populated the entire globe. and Asia and Europe, etc. It's
You're
a
talking
whole
about
other
the
conversation.
Moors. You're talking about they came before Columbus.
Before the Moors.
Right,
We can talk about they came before Columbus.
And you're right. That is a whole other conversation. But and I don't want to go too sort of obscure with it.
Right.
But when you say 1619 to now, I think that's a fair point. That was the beginning of the colonial project.
Thank you.
So just because it didn't have an actual flag and a name at the time.
Colonies were established, work was happening. We were doing a lot of the work. So, yeah, I don't think our history began in, 1776.
Right. And there's a question in the chat that's not directly related to reparations, but the guy's been asking me this every day. So I'm going to ask you, because you work with young people and you work a lot in anti-racist causes. He said he wants to know, when should students start learning about racism? And I guess so we can tie it into the conversation we're having now. When should they start learning about reparations?
I'll answer it like this. I was about 8 years old when, at the Mardi Gras parades in New Orleans, this white man stepped on my hand trying to get these doubloons, they call them doubloons, off of the floats. And my mom was there, and she cussed this man out in a way I had never seen her. And she explained what might have been his motivation, and why they use this word. I had been, by that age, been called the N-word. And so that was my reference. And so I think that it should start early, before young people are 10 years old. It should start early. Now, we are in the schools right now. We teach middle and high school. So we start teaching them, officially when they're in middle school. So what's that, 10 years old? Yeah, so I think it should start early, yeah.
And reparations, is that part of the conversation about racism?
We talk about everything. We have a comprehensive historical overview in our curriculum. I call it the root curriculum. And we talk about reparations. The kids know all about, the period of enslavement, but also they know about Reconstruction, And I always throw that in there because I don't know how many conversations people have about Reconstruction.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get to that when we come forward. Now that you're saying it, I do remember the first time I was called the N-word. I was 7. So
okay, you beat me.
Well, it's because we were living out in the country, and there was not very many black people around. There was a very racist place where my mom had taken us to at that time.
Right.
But I remember it clearly.
Clearly, right.
Very clearly.
It's one of those watershed moments.
Yeah,
in life.
Absolutely. No, you didn't offend me at all, Morris. I'm just trying to work your question in to our reparations topic, because I know it's been on your mind. Torre Brannon Reese is here. We are talking reparations. It is a Freedmen Friday. You're welcome in. You can get in the YouTube chat, which is what I'm reading from, or you can call us at 800-920-1580. I'm Dominique DePrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt?
With Civic Tax Relief, they were able to save me upwards of $80,000 that I would have had to pay had I not reached out to them.
Get ready for a toll-free hotline. Take advantage of new IRS tax forgiveness programs that may protect you from IRS collection agencies.
I owe the IRS $37,000.
They have the power to garnish your wages, put liens on your property, and levy your bank account. Civic Tax Relief can help protect you from the IRS.
Civic Tax Relief basically represented me against the IRS. By the time everything was completed, I didn't know the IRS anything.
Find out about the Fresh Start program that is now available through Civic Tax Relief. Civic Tax Relief's special tax hotline can help you discover all the relief programs available for free.
I would recommend anyone who has a tax problem to contact Civic Tax Relief.
Just call 800-285-3500. 800-285-3500. Don't wait. Call now. 800-285-3500. 800-285-3500.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
My name is Bronwyn, and I've been in this neighborhood for 65 years.
All righty.
I was raised here, right on Crenshaw Boulevard. Ancestry, legacy, everything. No parking. In regards to our elderly, in regards to trying to get from one end to the other, 48th and 50th Street is a dead zone. You got to get off the bus and you got to make your way down in the middle of the block. I'm right across the street. I understand one of the things. I am happy to see you guys. I've been in too many meetings where you weren't there. I understand those who own the buildings and your properties. I understand those who rent from you. Here it is. Why can't we invest in each other?
Making sure they follow through. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The conversation continues right now with Dominic DePrima on First Things First.
We're talking to Brannon Reese. He is a well-established community activist here in Leimert Park and throughout Southern California, also a singer. And the article that you wrote, Reparations, Reconstruction, and Our Enduring Fight for Liberation, is what prompted this conversation. And before we went to news, traffic, and sports, you had mentioned Reconstruction, something that you say you don't think we talk about as much as we should. Why do you say that?
Well, first of all, I think it's one of the most fascinating periods in American history, particularly for black folk, because I believe when we look back that there were some actual gangs and that we had just come out of slavery, right? 1865. So imagine just becoming, realizing some degree of freedom, and then accepting the responsibility that we wanted, that we pushed for, to run for office, to own land, to open our own businesses, to go to school in record numbers. And so we proved that we were full human beings, as if we had to prove it to somebody, right? And another telling thing about the effectiveness of it is the fact that the white backlash arose like right away, right? 1866.
Yeah.
And we should mention that President Lincoln, of course, was assassinated in 1865, and behind him came Johnson, who, was a staunch segregationist, and he was behind the movement to thwart any progress that we were trying to make. But for about almost 10 years,
that he happens to be a hero of the current resident of the White House.
Of course, that's his model. I tell people that all the time. That's his model. That guy there, right, Johnson.
You're right. It's a tradition of backlash.
Yeah, it's a tradition. It started there. And I don't want to jump ahead, but if you look at the 1908 victory of Jack Johnson, who became the first black heavyweight champion in the world, there were riots behind that, right? So from 1908 until 1915, he was the most hated and most well-known human being in the world, just like Muhammad Ali would be in the 1960s and 70s. And so going back to Reconstruction, for about 10 years, there was progress. We were elected to Congress, the Senate. There was even a black governor, PBS Pinchback in Louisiana. And the white backlash is something that we should always be aware that is going to happen. It happened when Barack Obama became president.
We're living the legacy of that right now.
Right. So
and
black progress, black success, black excellence has always been something that has scared the hell out of white America. And so, but we should look at Reconstruction, and I believe that, and I'm advocating for a return to the second Reconstruction, not a return to the first one, but I think Reconstruction should happen again because it deals with changing the laws, right? For example, one law that should be changed is that if you're a convicted felon, you should not be allowed to run for president, right? So that shocked a lot of people that the man was convicted, 34 counts. But gets to be president. That's crazy, So, I don't think a draft dodger should be president.
Well, yeah, there's that. But how do you tie that to reparations? I mean, how is that tied to Reconstruction?
Well,
it seems like it's common sense. Apparently not. You can't be a cosmetologist in the state of California with 34 felonies, but apparently you can be the president.
Well, the talks about reparations came before 1865, and so it was out of Reconstruction, or I should have said Reconstruction, in reparations. Out of Reconstruction came an organized reparations movement. So it was the talk about Reconstruction. It was the radical Republicans, of course, Thaddeus Stevens being the most salient figure of that time, who began to work on different bills. And we know about the bill that we call 40 acres and a mule, right?
Special order 15.
General Sherman's field order. And so, there's a long history of the marriage between the fight for reparations and Reconstruction. And there's always been vestiges of Reconstruction, even to this day. But I believe that we should be conscious about it. We should study that period, and that we should begin to advocate as strongly for a return to Reconstruction as we are about reparations.
Yeah, and I want to talk about what that looks like and how we get there, but let's go to Big Phil, calling on a Freedmen Friday. Good morning, Big Phil.
Good morning, Devils Don't Sleep. Hey, little brother, I love you, man. I'm very proud of your story. Very proud of you, brother. You know that.
Hey, Phil, what's up, baby?
And you know what? The show went well with the girls, Womack girls. You know, I traveled with their Uncle Bobby. Womack went well. But I want to support you.
Yes,
but
sir.
I got to head out. And Dominique, I love you guys. I love you, little bro. Keep up the good work.
Too, man.
I'm out, Big Phil.
All right.
Okay, just some love. I'm not mad at that.
Yes, indeed. It feels good.
See, then that's the intersection of your activism and your music,
yes,
right?
Yeah, he knows me. And my musical director, Hence Powell, is the former musical director for Bobby Womack. So he used to work with Womack. Big Phil, he was security for Womack. And now the Womack's nieces, Sam Cooke's granddaughters, are becoming very popular in the musical world. I saw Al Green. They opened for Al Green last week.
Yeah, I see they're getting a lot of love.
They bad. I can't wait to work with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, thank you for connecting the dots there, because for some folks that might have sounded random, but it wasn't random at all.
No.
So a second Reconstruction is what you're calling for.
Right.
Presumably, I mean, I'm assuming that's to finish the work that was never finished, that was barely started in this country. Yeah. One of the things I do think about is when the UN lays out their definition of reparations, and one of the things that they talk about is guarantee of non-repetition. Mm-hmm. Had we continued to be protected by federal troops, had the people been able to keep the land that they were given, had those 40 acres been given out, but then the federal government stepped in to play the role of making sure that the slaveholders didn't seize back the land, that the KKK didn't terrorize people, that people weren't lynched, we would be in a much different place now.
Well, just to make it plain, they got tired. They were never really from their hearts into that, into putting their lives for us. Nobody wanted to give their lives for us.
Right. Fair point.
Yeah. So we have to remember that we initiated, and I wrote that in my article, that any time that we've realized any freedom, any liberation, any parity in society, it was of our own volition. It was because we pushed for it. We fought for it, bled and died and killed if we had to get our freedom, And there are figures like John Brown, of course, and Nat Turner and Denmark Vesey and others I can point to who, were the impetus for this civil war that happened in 1861.
Here we go with our friend Yogi Fish, our Republican friend Yogi Fish, in the chat. He
black or white?
He's black, like most people in the chat. He says Lincoln is Donald Trump's role model, and makes a point, uses a talking point that a lot of Republicans, particularly black Republicans, use today, to say that Johnson was a Democrat, Lincoln was a Republican, that Republicans created Reconstruction. And that Frederick Douglass was a Republican. This is something I hear often from black Republicans today. And so I wonder if you would address that in terms of the roles of Republicans and Democrats then and now.
So the Republican Party could effectively be called what we've seen in the last 60 years, where we identify as Democrats, which started happening in the late 50s, early 1960s, particularly when John F. Kennedy came in. And then we can go back to Roosevelt in the 1940s. But back in the 1800s, 1860s, the Republicans were not the party that we identify with now. So when Negroes talk about Republican Party, there's nuance. And when you have to study history and understand who the Republicans were back then versus who the Democrats were. The Democrats were largely in the South, later becoming what Malcolm X would refer to. He was one that referred to as the Dixiecrats, right? Johnson, LBJ, was a Democrat, right, who was a staunch segregationist, but who actually did some things that benefited black folk that you wouldn't think he would have done, right? Politics is
under
a strange
heavy
game.
pressure, right?
Under heavy pressure.
Under heavy pressure.
But he did it. He signed these bills,
right?
And that's history. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. But you can't equate the Republicans of today with those of the 1860s.
Saying the Republican Party was created to fight against slavery. Slavery doesn't end without black people.
Slavery does not. You said it. I don't need to say it again. We were the advocates for our freedom. And then when he says, did he say? Lincoln was the model.
Was the role model for Trump. And I'm trying to think what thing that Trump has done, which is why I think this idea of policy over party is important. Mm-hmm. If we look at policies and take off the labels.
Yeah, we need to look at the actions of people. Malcolm X once said, "I judge a man by his conscious behavior." So you can take those titles.
I mean, what has Trump done that is reminiscent of Lincoln? Okay, let me not take the bait because we're talking about reparations here today.
Yeah.
But how do you? I mean, we only have a minute here, so I guess you're going to have to answer this after news, traffic, and sports.
Okay.
But how do we get to a second Reconstruction? Reconstruction, which lasted for a very short time, even though it did yield some steps forward, was prompted by the giant crisis of the Civil War. You know, I would argue we're in a giant crisis now.
Yes.
But at the level of a civil war, at the level of, it seems like those kinds of big, even if you look at the Civil Rights Act and stuff, it's prompted by a massive protest movement taking place in the streets. It's not, I think Frederick Douglass said it. Power concedes nothing
without a demand.
Right. And so what possible demand could get us there in 2026, Tori Brannon Reese is going to tell you when we come forward, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass and Councilwoman Nathia Rahman squared off in a heated debate over homelessness, public safety, and economic development. Here's Mayor Bass.
I did the first tax credit when I was Speaker of the House. You were nowhere. As a matter of fact, I believe you have missed several thousand votes because you don't show up to work.
The two mayoral rivals exchanged sharp criticism of each other's records. Mississippi lawmakers are considering a new funding model that would tie university funding to graduation rates. Members of the Legislative Black Caucus are urging caution, saying more data and input from HBCU leaders is needed to ensure historically black colleges aren't unfairly impacted. And Drake is expanding his live entertainment footprint with a new history venue in Ottawa. The music venue, created in partnership with Live Nation, follows the successful launch of the original history location in Toronto. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Chargers have a lot of work to do with their second and third string players. Most of them were on the field Thursday night at SoFi during the Chargers' 41-17 loss to San Francisco. The Chargers play their final preseason game next Thursday against the Rams at SoFi. The Rams play their second preseason game Saturday against New Orleans, 1 p.m. kickoff at SoFi. For the sixth straight year, the LA Sparks will miss the WNBA playoffs. The Sparks' 124-88 loss Thursday night to the Atlanta Dream eliminated them from playoff contention. The loss dropped the Sparks to 12-24. They haven't made the playoffs since 2020. The Dodgers are back in action tonight after an off day Thursday. They start a 3-game series at home against Pittsburgh. The Dodgers are 2 games behind Milwaukee for the best record in Major League Baseball. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What's good, KBLA delegation? I am Miles Lowe, and I'm excited to be joining the weekend lineup right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Join me every Saturday at 12 noon for the Do Better Show, where we get into the world of tech, AI, the creator economy, navigating your mental health through it all, and have conversations with founders to find out how real people are making real money right now. It's not a course, not a subscription. Classes in session every weekend, live on the air. So if you knew better, you do better, right? So let's make a better you. The Do Better Show, every Saturday, 12 noon, and replaying again at 7 p.m. right here on Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dionne Raymond, Justice Correspondent and host of the Justice Files. For years, LA City Councilman Curran Price has served his district. And for years, he's been under a legal cloud which, frankly, looks thinner every time it's tested in court. Last Friday, a Superior Court judge refused to throw out the corruption case against Price. That's true. But listen to what the judge actually said while doing it. Judge Larry Paul Fiddler called this not a great case. Not our words, his. Price's attorney, standing right there in the courtroom, said it plainly. In denying our motion, the court acknowledged that this is not a great case. We agree. Now, that's not a ringing endorsement of a prosecution. That's a judge saying, essentially, there's just enough here to send it to a jury. Barely. The ruling itself says nothing about guilt. It's not proof of wrongdoing. What it is a low bar, cleared by a thin margin, on evidence the court itself has called circumstantial. Councilman Price has pleaded not guilty. He denies the allegations. And after 3 terms representing his district, he's term limited and on his way out of office, regardless of how this case ends. Which raises a fair question. What exactly is served? By dragging a longtime champion for working families in South Los Angeles through a trial that even the presiding judge doesn't sound confident about. We're not saying elected officials should not be held accountable. They should. But accountability means something different from a prosecution that struggles to convince the very judge overseeing it. Curran Price deserves his day in court, and he deserves the presumption of innocence any one of us would want for ourselves or a loved one, especially when the bench itself has doubts. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dionne Raymond, Justice Correspondent and host of the Justice Files. As always, we welcome your feedback.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Torre Brannon Reese is here. He's the founder of FAMLI. He's an artist and many other things. I won't get into all that because we're talking reparations. So your essay is focusing on reparations, and you say it's time for a second Reconstruction. So what crisis, what trigger, what campaign gets us there in 2026?
The very existence of a Donald Trump who is representative of something in America that's insidious, that's illegal, that's corrupt, and I can go on and on and on. However, I know that that won't happen, right? It won't be a case where we would just look at him and decide and
say reparations now.
Yeah, but yeah. I think we should all be aware now that something is necessary, some change, some dramatic change is necessary in this country. Because there are things happening now, like, for example, this Navy warship. I'm a veteran also. I'm an Air Force veteran.
Thank you for your service. I never knew that. Yes, Same as my dad. He was in the Air Force till they kicked him out.
And I know that it's illegal to keep those men on that ship for that long and to not feed them properly and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the corruption. The money that's being made, the investments that are being made. By people who are controlling the market. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And there needs to be laws to change, to restrict that kind of stuff from happening.
I mean, true. But back to reparations, how do you get to a second Reconstruction? Well, if it was you and I, we would look at Trump and say, look at this kleptocracy. They're taking money out of the cash register. Let's repair the harm that's been done. Let's pay the debt that is owed. But how do we get there?
Pressure. You asked that question earlier. Fred Hampton, the great leader of the Black Panther Party, who died at 21 years old in Chicago,
was murdered.
He said, politics is war without bloodshed, and war is politics with bloodshed. So we are in a civil war right now. Many of us may not recognize it, but we are in a civil war right now, an intellectual civil war, a spiritual civil war, an economic civil war, and we need to recognize that. And I think that, I know that you have to exercise your political power, right, in many different ways, not just through the vote. Right now, we are at war, and that type of when you understand war, you behave accordingly. You organize, you strategize, you do the work that's necessary to make the change that you want to see in society. And there's still some of us who haven't even recognized that we're at war, and some of them are on the other side of the fence.
Yeah. For sure. And one of the things that I hear most commonly is it'll never happen. Why are you talking about this? Why are you wasting your time? But in fact, it is happening. And someone in the chat said who would lead it, certainly not at a federal level. But what's happening is, that we're continuing even with this administration. Alameda just passed reparations, San Francisco. More and more reparations reports are coming out. More commissions are coming online. Right. Evanston is still fighting to be allowed to give out those dollars for housing. There was a victory in Palm Springs. The Ebony Beach Club was just the heir was just given $350,000. Right. The Bruces got their beach back. So there is stuff happening even without that federal leadership, and I think that helps to create, that mass, that critical mass that we need, and that pressure that we need. But you're talking about the Reconstruction was a government plan to repair and rebuild the formerly enslaved human beings.
There was a stark reality that there had been human beings who were enslaved during the time when they were crafting the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. There were people who were crafting that document who owned people, and when they looked back, they were like, they meaning the political power at that time, they were like, that was wrong. We need to recognize that and we need to do something about it.
But when has this country, in a sustainable manner, done anything to uplift Black people? Really? I mean, you say it in you pointed out in your writings that the Japanese Americans have received reparations. Right. I mean, and there's a great article in the Washington Post that lists everybody from people who have had bad salad to farmers who have lost crops. Right. This country has
victims
given
of police
reparations
abuse in Chicago,
has given reparations to a lot of folks, but not Black people. Even to the white plantation owners, they got reparations.
The Tuskegee experiment resulted in $10 million. I think it was $10 million in reparations payments. So as you are saying right now, as you're intimating, there has been these different cases, these separate cases, individual cases that, reparations has happened. So we can't give up, right? All I'm saying is that there needs to be a larger movement, and I think that movement is Reconstruction. And we have to force this country to do the right thing. They're not going to do the right thing. Like you just said, there's never been a sustained movement to do right in this country. It's always been us pushing and pushing and pushing, and we are quintessentially American. If anybody's American, it's us. Curtis Mayfield said that,
and I always say that we cannot give the banner of patriotism to anti-Black forces because we are the true Frederick Douglass said it too. Right. A true patriot is the one that tries to fix the problems of their country. I'm paraphrasing, not the one that lets her slide. Let's go to Dwight calling us from the city of Compton. Good morning, Dwight.
Good morning, Hotep. Good morning, Tori. I'm thank you so much for the great information you've given us and explaining how the Republicans today are not the Republicans that fought against slavery when Frederick Douglass was alive. And Tori, thank you so much for keeping this fight alive, because we see these laws are either enforced or not enforced, whichever keeps Black people oppressed. Now, the 14th Amendment says technically Trump should not be president right now, and we never hear Republicans bring that up, because for him attacking the Capitol, that law, and then the corrupt Supreme Court delayed his trial, and the judge in Florida delayed his trial for stealing the documents to help him become president. So they should also be removed, debarred, or whatever.
Not to mention the whole
guilty
competency issue, which we, you didn't even start on that.
Those six Republican Supreme Court justices should be investigated. I prayed this November that the Democrats take over both the Senate and the House of Representatives. And I know you got Republicans in the chat room, Dominique, and I feel so bad. How could they be on the side of a racist regime that's trying to hold black people down right now?
Because there were Negroes on the side of Confederates.
Well, Yogi is saying why fight? Yogi is saying why fight for the actions of the past if we don't honor the beliefs of the people who fought for the future? Their foundation was conservative and Republican, but we also have to deal in the now. I mean, you go in the refrigerator and your milk is spoiled, and you say, "I'm gonna drink this because this was good milk at one time." No, you don't. You say, okay, I appreciated you when you were good, and now I throw you away because if I drink you, I'm going to get sick.
It's not a case of Democrats or Republicans. It's a case of right and wrong. Right now, this rising movement of democratic socialism is something we should be paying attention to, whether you call yourself a Democrat or Republican or whatever. And that is really partly a revolt against the traditional Democrats.
Yeah, the corporatization of both parties.
Right.
And it is true, the moderates, the corporatists, the establishment, whatever you want to call them, they're having a whole fit about this. And many of these, I won't say all because I haven't vetted all of them, but many of these folks are much more likely to support reparations than your sort of
I believe
establishment Dems.
I love Mamdani in New York. I love what he's doing. People need to really pay attention to him. And
they also need to realize that just because someone is, invoking Mamdani doesn't make them that. I mean, we got some Timu.
Make them what?
Mamdani.
Make them what? Like, what are they afraid of? What's the problem?
No, I'm just saying there's folks running around here trying to pose as Mamdani because he's a flavor of the moment, and they ain't that.
Oh, gotcha.
Does the track record match the pose is the question.
That always happens. I want to reflect back really quickly on Abraham Lincoln, who was forced to be who he became through, conversations with Frederick Douglass and others who were pushing and prodding and teaching him and showing him, because he did advocate for Africans going back to Africa. That was one of his solutions to the problem. Abraham Lincoln, right. So, I don't have any rose-colored glasses where it concerns him. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't think that Trump really reflects him.
We're talking about reparations, and a Reconstruction, while, very effective for a very short period, would it have to be a government program, or could we have a Reconstruction?
The Democrats would have to take over the House and the Senate. The Democrats would have to take over the House and the Senate. We would have to change.
Progressive Democrats.
Right.
Not the ones that say, fund the police, fund the police, fund the police.
In AIPAC.
Democrats with some,
with some verve. They would have to be forced. People are comfortable. I make a general statement that I don't trust politicians. That wouldn't be true for every politician. There are some who I think that have a heart, right?
Right. I mean, it's trendy to say.
It's trendy to say.
It's trendy to say, but a lot of people that say that don't know one politician from another, they shouldn't trust politicians. Only way you can. It's not about trust. It's about looking at their track record and their policies and seeing if they align with your goals and your ethics.
Yeah. Maxine Waters helped to start my career, helped me to launch my nonprofit. Heather Hutt pushed through the city council the Malcolm X initiative, and now we have a Malcolm X corridor, which most black people don't really know about. They should be aware of that. That's a great symbolic victory for us.
And yes, Paul, it does fall on the voters too. For sure, we have to be informed. But if your solution is a second Reconstruction, your solution to us getting to actual comprehensive federal reparations, because as Fahima says in the chat, I do believe that the momentum on the city, county, state level that's happening, and even in people's mindsets, in some private institutions, in educational institutions, in some segments of the church, we're starting to see acceptance and even implementation of reparations. But I think that's part of the momentum. It's part of what gets us there. But to have it manifest like that on a national level, on a federal level, you're saying progressive Dems would have to take over the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
And what else?
They'd have to exercise their power. Well, first, the people have to be educated. You know, I mentioned Fred Hampton earlier. One of the things that he was good at was education, and that he believed in was education. If the people are not educated, if they don't understand the issues, then there's not going to be a movement. There's not going to be a sustained movement. There's always one or two who stick out, and then there are people just living their lives. And we can't, I'm not looking down on the people. I'm saying that in the midst of your challenges that you have in life, paying your rent and raising your children, like you just sent your child off to college and everything, we have to pay attention to politics. We have to pay attention to community involvement, and in some way, as Kwame Ture said, you know, we have to organize. We have to be a part of organizations. There's no other way. You can keep talking, but it's not going to happen until you get involved and push, because this country don't give two damns about us. They didn't show that over and over.
Well, I mean, and to your point, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or a decline to state, or, you know, or no party, I mean, if you join an organization, you can be part of doing work that moves the issues you care about, independent of the two-party system, what some people like to call the duopoly or the uniparty or whatever. And even beyond this idea that perhaps we'll get a real robust third and fourth party in this country. You can do the work. You're talking about community-based organizations. You're talking about community initiative, reparations-based organizations. There are many.
Well, let me jump, and it's going to seem like a huge jump, Dominique, but men will understand right away, and women who understand men will understand. The Philadelphia 76ers this year, LeBron James, right? And our brother Jaylen Brown from the Celtics. I don't think it's just about basketball. I did a show on this. I don't think it's just about basketball. They want fundamental change in the NBA, which is largely controlled by, you know, rich white men, right?
Is controlled
but yet
by,
is controlled by rich white men. There's one or two exceptions of blacks having some vestiges of ownership, you know, Magic Johnson and a couple of others.
Yeah, but
in order for us to actually make, so those two powerhouses, Jaylen Brown being, to me, the most conscious young black athlete, you know, out there right now, and of course LeBron being someone who's for many years have done some beautiful things for the people and for youth and et cetera, et cetera. So I think those two coming together is not just about basketball, but it's going to take those kind of actions. Those of us who are consciously aware and involved have to make sure that our people are informed and that we can get our people active to advocate for themselves and fight for themselves.
We're talking with Torre Brannon Reese. He's calling for a second Reconstruction to bring reparations. We'll continue the conversation when we come forward on Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Just in case you missed our Procrastination Crenshaw Town Hall.
Seriously speaking, every Saturday when I hear the program about Altadena and how it may not come back, that's happening to us. This is the largest land grab since the gold rush in California. We have an EDD property, 59,000 square feet. Our elected representative determined that she should write a bill that would declare it to be surplus. So now guess what we're getting? Affordable housing. So I hope that we can start listening to one another, because there is a domino effect. If you don't care about us, guess what? We won't be here, and then you won't be here.
Not letting them get away with anything. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
When you're finally off the clock after a long day, dishes put away, kids asleep, feet kicked up, heartburn. Don't let heartburn take over your hard-earned moment. Quick, Alka-Seltzer. Nothing works faster for heartburn relief. Alka-Seltzer effervescent tablets begin neutralizing stomach acid in seconds, so you can get back to your one more episode marathon. Quick, Alka-Seltzer. Because nothing works faster for heartburn relief. Use as directed.
Ice Cube's Big 3 season has come down to this. The Big 3 Championship is coming to Charlotte. Who will be crowned the Big 3 Season 9 champion? Plus the Big 3 All-Star Game. The biggest names in the game, all on one court, one more time. 2 games of the most physical, competitive, and non-stop 3-on-3 action. The game played the way you love. Watch live Saturday on CBS at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, and catch replays Monday on BET. Yay, yay!
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project.
Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
The KBLA 1580 app puts the realest conversations right in your pocket. Stream live wherever you are in the world. No static. No searching the dial. A crystal clear connection 24/7, exactly when you want it. We recommend that you keep automatic updates enabled. Set it and forget it. So the app stays up to date with store requirements, bug fixes, and new features as we roll them out. Download the KBLA 1580 app today and stay plugged into the conversation everyone's having.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Okay, we're going to try to squeeze in a couple big things really quickly here. Let's go to Ira from Culver City. You're on with Tori Brannon Reese, founder of FAMLI and Reparationists. Good morning.
Good morning, and protect black women. I just wanted to warn black folks to be careful. We've fallen for this Mondami nonsense before. He lied in our faces and said that America was built by immigrants. So he's already discounted black people right out in the front, right through the door. It's ridiculous.
He actually did correct himself on that, just for the record. He was called out on it. And
I'm glad he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's emotional, my brother. I mean, what somebody says, you're going to say things in your life, but let's look at the actions. Let's look at free child care. Let's look at people's transportation monies that they don't have to spend as much on their rent and et cetera. I'm looking at the outcomes. Nobody's perfect anyway, so there can be some things that you can disagree with anyone that's out there. When you're a leader, you're going to be subject to some mistakes. But I think when I juxtapose him against what's been happening for the last 8 years, I take him any day.
Thriving under Trump.
All right, Ira, is that a question?
No, just a statement.
Okay,
I'm
got
thriving,
it.
As are most blacks, under Trump.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm glad you're.
I was
Go ahead.
I was thriving under Obama. I think a person who has the spirit and the attitude and the drive is going to thrive no matter who's in office. We thrived after Reconstruction and built hundreds of black townships in the midst of segregation and Jim Crow law.
But also 600,000 black women have lost their jobs. And I love how Ira always has to call in here and say, protect black women, and then proceed to attack us and support everybody that does attack us. Yeah. The irony. Thank you for the call, though, Ira. I always appreciate the fact that you're part of our big tent. So imagine this, Tori Brannon Reese. Yeah. Summerlee is president. Zohran Mamdani is vice president. We've got the progressives are controlling the Senate and the House.
Right.
Somehow we've expanded the extreme court. Somehow we actually have power. We've gotten rid of the electoral college, or maybe D.C. has statehood now. And so we actually have representative democracy. What do they have to do? What does that Reconstruction consist of?
Human rights have to become law. Organic, natural human rights have to become law. Like, for example, the Voting Rights Act should never be touched. It should never be
in other words, it has to be reinstated because it's already been touched.
It should be a permanent fixture in the social fabric, the political fabric, the fabric of American society. Shouldn't be a situation where it has to come up for a vote every 20 years, whatever it is, every 20 years or whatever. And so that has to happen. But at the end of the day, I've lived around the world. I've been to Sweden and Dubai and the Far East. I've traveled the world as a veteran and also as a performing artist. And I've lived in socialist countries. I've seen a mixture of socialism and capitalism. They can coexist. Everybody wants to make money. I'm not an advocate for people not making money, but at the same time, I'm not an advocate for people who have to be stomped on, and mistreated and degraded so that someone else can get rich. And that's what's happening in America right now. We're effectively living under a what's that word I'm looking for?
Oligarchy, kleptocracy, authoritarian government, fascism.
Right. And most people don't recognize that. That's what we're living under right now. I've lived through it under Marcos in the Philippines, etc. Yeah, I was there when you could, for one weed cigarette, you could get 10 years in the penitentiary. I don't smoke weed.
But if you did.
What if I did?
Well, so your vision is human rights embedded in law and reparations. How does that come into the picture at that point?
Well, at that point, you have, again, enough power to force it, to push it through, right? You have to exercise your power.
And at that point, we cut the check?
Well,
I mean, we were
that's the only way it's going to happen. That's the only way it's going to happen, begging somebody who doesn't like you and doesn't value you and doesn't, even value what you're saying, that's not going to happen, But at the same time, I don't think that should be our only focus. I think we really should look at the period after Reconstruction when black folks in like Mound Bayou, Mississippi, everybody knows about T-Town or Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there are many other black townships around this country. And I think that Leimert Park, in a little area right here, 43rd on that end, Crenshaw over here, and Leimert over here, is almost 100% black owned. And most black people don't recognize that.
And that's relatively recent. Brannon Reese, thank you so much for coming in. It's been fun exploring the inside of your brain on this Freedmen Friday. They can find you at famli.org. It's FAMLI.
FAMLI, soul, like soul music.
FamilySoul.org.
Right. And that's familysoul@gmail.com if they want to email.
Indeed.
And they can donate. We have a 100% graduation rate with our program. Just send all our kids off to college. All who graduated went to college.
All right. Well, you're going to have to come back and talk about that. We're up against news, traffic, and sports. Right. You're invited back, though.
Thank you.
And the phone lines are wide open. Next, KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass and Councilwoman Nathia Rahman squared off in a heated debate over homelessness, public safety, and economic development. Here's Mayor Bass.
I did the first tax credit when I was Speaker of the House. You were nowhere. As a matter of fact, I believe you have missed several thousand votes because you don't show up to work.
The two mayoral rivals exchanged sharp criticism of each other's records. Mississippi lawmakers are considering a new funding model that would tie university funding to graduation rates. Members of the Legislative Black Caucus are urging caution, saying more data and input from HBCU leaders is needed to ensure historically black colleges aren't unfairly impacted. And Drake is expanding his live entertainment footprint with a new history venue in Ottawa. The music venue, created in partnership with Live Nation, follows the successful launch of the original history location in Toronto. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Chargers have a lot of work to do with their second and third string players. Most of them were on the field Thursday night at SoFi during the Chargers' 41-17 loss to San Francisco. The Chargers play their final preseason game next Thursday against the Rams at SoFi. The Rams play their second preseason game Saturday against New Orleans, 1 p.m. kickoff at SoFi. For the sixth straight year, the LA Sparks will miss the WNBA playoffs. The Sparks' 124-88 loss Thursday night to the Atlanta Dream eliminated them from playoff contention. The loss dropped the Sparks to 12-24. They haven't made the playoffs since 2020. The Dodgers are back in action tonight after an off day Thursday.